Hello, I will now call this meeting of New Trier Township to order. It is 7:30. Madam Deputy Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Eisenberg.
Here.
Trustee Cassell McNally.
Here.
Trustee Robbins.
Here.
Trustee Mulzer.
Here.
Trustee Rubin.
Here. And online? No. Let the record reflect that Assessor Jan Churchwell is not present. All right, we will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll jump right in. Supervisor's report. It's been a busy month, and it's gonna be a busy night, so I apologize and try to move as expeditiously as we can. All right, the moment you've all been waiting for, what was in the safe deposit box? Nothing. We've had a safe deposit box for over a decade and it has nothing in it. It was really not fun. Anyway, but that's over now, so that's great. I had a great time speaking to the Rotary Club at the Harbor chapter in Wilmette. They had wonderful questions, especially about intergovernmental cooperation, environmental concerns, and the pantry. It was a wonderful evening. We've been getting wonderful thank you notes regarding the Thanksgiving meal giveaways, and the staff really did a fabulous job on that. We were able to use Winnetka Presbyterian again, had wonderful volunteers, and we plan to have an encore presentation on Monday for the December winter holiday meal giveaway. So if anyone's available on Monday, we would love to have your help.
Do we have hours for that?
It is 10 to 2. Mhm. And staff starts setting up before that, but the actual giveaway is 10 to 2. Yeah. Wonderful. We also had a nice visit from Binary Heart from New Trier Township High School, which is an organization that comes and takes old computer equipment and is able to refurbish it for the needy. We were able to work with HTML to remove the hard drives from our equipment so that we could donate it without any concerns about privacy. So I'm really excited. We got rid of a lot of things that hopefully will get a second life. I attended the State of the Villages with League of Women Voters for Winnetka, Northfield, and Kenilworth, which was great to hear about all of the different villages and especially the various infrastructure projects they're all doing, related especially to their business developments and on Green Bay in particular, and how they're working together in that corridor. And green infrastructure as well. It was also nice to kind of get to go see the village managers, see the village presidents, and make sure that they always are present. I know that Larisha's excited about this too, but we finally have positive pay on our bank accounts. I'm sure the auditors are as well. We'll say well done. That was one of the auditor's suggestions, was to get positive pay, but if you recall, about a year ago, we had an incident where someone stole a check out of the Winnetka post office and fraudulently cashed it. You know, we had filed a police report, you know, we're fine. But this will be a way to keep that from happening. I'm sure you've seen that this kind of fraud has been increasing. There was even an incident earlier today that was in the blotter, also at Winnetka post office. So this is sadly fraud. So especially since we are so check heavy, I sign pretty much every expenditure that comes out of this office, other than the few things that we have set up on direct deposit, like payroll and HTML. You know, we needed this to ensure the safety of our money. So I'm excited about that. We also made a policy change in the general assistance handbook, which I think will be helpful. There's a provision in the code for what's called a family case of assistance. But you're usually, so it's because most of the time if you have kids, you're automatically presumptively get TANF, right? So then you can't get general assistance. But there are cases where that's not the practical thing that's happening. And that happened in a case that came through our office recently, where the parents are not in their lives. And so it's two homeless juveniles who are now living with non-relatives. So I made a change to our policy to ensure that as long as there's a guardian, it does not have to be a relative for the family case. So just a recognition of the practicalities.
A legally appointed guardian?
Yes, a legally appointed guardian, yes. And they have to agree to take on this responsibility, and yes, there are a number of state guards on there as well. So we had worked with some of the neighboring townships, see how they deal with that kind of situation, and made a similar change. All right, the most important update is the clerk search update. Obviously very hard to fill Nicole's shoes. We were sad that she had had to resign, but we are excited that we have the opportunity to have Jerome join us again on our board. So Jerome, how many years? 12 years as clerk, so I cannot think of someone more qualified to take on the role, who understands the role, gets really excited about clerk. And don't worry, we're gonna approve a levy today and you get to file it. I know, he loves it. He loves the clerk, that stuff. So with pursuant, my authority is to fill vacancies by appointment. I will open the floor though to any discussion, if there is any discussion.
I would just like to say that I think it's a master stroke. It's a wonderful decision. And I'm so excited to have Jerome back. He knows the position very, very well. And he'll have a little more free time with his retirement coming up at school. And I couldn't be more pleased.
Absolutely. And I do thank those who did apply or spoke with me about the position. And I will be contacting them about ways that they can get involved in either the committees or other volunteer opportunities. But yes, Jerome, welcome back. We will now have our deputy clerk, who has taken over the role and for the interim, administer the oath of office.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, when you stand by the flag, because it looks like Julie is going to be requested.
I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United
Okay, give
States.
us a second, let him repeat. Yep.
Oh,
I do solemnly swear that I will
support the
support the
Constitution of the United
Constitution
States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of
and
Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
that I will faithfully discharge the duty
of the office of clerk to the best of my ability.
of the office of clerk to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
And your role starts now.
Thank you.
Would you like to say anything?
I
for
would
your
just,
introduction?
I want to thank you, Gail and Larisha and all the crew here, and how delighted I am to be back. This is a very special position for me, and I have real tremendous enthusiasm for it, and I'll guarantee you that I'll do my very best for 2 years ahead. And I just want to say, my mom would be very proud of returning to the chair, because the township was very special and valued to her as well. So I'm just.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It'll be strange having an annual meeting. But yeah,
Yeah, what was the name of that safe technology disposal company? That
it's called, we use our own tech guys, the HTML, our consultant. And then Binary Part is the organization at New Trier that reuses them. Mhm. I know I have a couple items that
Yeah,
for
me
them
too.
too. All right, we are now in line for the approval of the minutes, and we thank Nicole and the staff for getting those through. So we could start fresh with Jerome. We'll start with August 9th, 2022.
So on page 2, under the clerk's report section, there's a bracketed section. Says below with minor edit, Elliot had a minor change. I didn't know if we wanted to elaborate any more on that?
That's originally what Nicole had on there. I was just trying to finish what she put, but I don't know what her original thoughts were on that.
I would just strike it.
If we don't know at this point, perhaps we just say, second in a motion to approve the minutes from, you know, with a minor edit from trustee Robbins.
Mhm. Any other changes on the August minutes?
For the record, my name is misspelled on the first page.
Yeah, note that as well.
And then, it says that Nicole was absent, but then in the next line, it said that, Nicole announced that there was a quorum. I think it should be Deputy Clerk Pearson. I'm not mistaken.
Thank you. Any other changes? Seeing none. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of August 9th, 2022?
So moved.
All those in favor, and there's a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We are now looking at September 13th, 2022. Any changes?
Move to approval of the September 13th minutes.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. The motion carries. October 11th, 2022 minutes.
Page 1, Stefan's name is incorrect, Deputy Clerk Pearson and the call to
Yep.
order. Page 2, under clerk's report and assessor's report, please add Casal or McNally. I can give you these two. I'm really glad about this.
Got it, got it.
Page 4. The very bottom, roll call by Deputy Clerk Pearson.
Thank you. Any additional comments or changes? Remind me when you changed the happen.
I got married October 16th.
Okay, so this is still here. Got it. All right, we're now in line for a motion.
So moved. Second.
Move and second.
Move to approve the October 11th minutes as edited, as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. November 1st, committee of a whole. And this was very Herculean, I appreciate that.
Move to accept minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Abstain as I wasn't in attendance.
Thank you. Elliot abstaining. Motion carries. And of course, all of these meetings are recorded on our YouTube, and for all to see the verbatim records, if you want to. Yeah. All right, financial report, Mr. Howard. I'll make sure that you.
Yep, good evening, everybody. I'm going to attempt to share my screen and we'll walk through the 9 months ended November 30th.
You've got control.
Okay. Okay, so let's start with just some revenue highlights. Again, we're 75% of the way through the fiscal year. And as you know, still no Cook County taxes as of November. We did start to see some trickle in this month, and of course, they're due by the 30th. So again, we should start to see a nice bump in December in terms of the property taxes. But as of November 30th, they were at 38% of the budget. Replacement taxes continue to outperform. You see 285%. Remember, that's the business tax that comes in about every other month from the state. So that looks very good. Interest, the Fed continues to move on rates. We get to get some better bang for the buck in terms of our money markets. So we're at 89% there. Passport fees also beat their budget for the year, almost double there at about 16,000. All in, we're at about 1.4 million on about a $3.3 million revenue budget. So we're at 42%. And again, waiting for property taxes, which we'll receive this month. As we look down our expenditures in terms of percent of budget, you can see almost all of our line account categories are below where we are in the year at 75%. Again, you can see agency programs at 67%. You'll see that again in the detail. Our biggest line account, of course, is going to be related to agency programs, and then projects only at 18% in terms of the budget. Financial assistance at 61%. We're a little high in terms of the pantry, but again, that goes to the need. We're at 98% there, and then personnel 74%, elected officials 75%, exactly where we are in terms of the fiscal year. All in, about 2.2 million spent on a $3.7 million budget, so we're at 59%. Again, not uncommon for us to be in a deficit position as we wait on those property taxes, 835,000. We're carrying adequate fund balance though at 1.4 million, 592,000. Right now we're at a fund balance ratio of about 27%. Again, we're going to look much better after December when that second installment comes in. So look kind of at our distribution. Property taxes lead the way at 89%, replacement tax 9%, interest 1%, passports 1%. And then on the expenditure side, agency programs make up 49%, child care 5%, projects 4%, contractual services 5%, the assessor 3%, building town hall expenses 4%, financial assistance 8%, pantry 5%, and then personnel 15%. Again, we're going to have expenditures outpacing revenues at this point. That script is going to be flipped, as they say, next month as finally we get to see those Cook County taxes come in. Not going to go through all the detail related accounts here. I'll have you go through those at your pleasure. But we will take you down to just our cash report. Again, you can see most of our money now in those money market accounts earning 1%. Hopefully we'll continue to see that rate rise. I know we've talked about going to maybe a managed or brokered account. So that's also something we can look to try to get a little better bang for the buck. But about 1.2 million, again, across all funds at the bank. Now that pretty much concludes my presentation. Again, after that, we're going to have all of our accounts payable for you to approve, as well as the bank reconciliations. But I'd be happy to take any questions on the financial piece.
I don't know who the right person is to ask this. The pantry expense, page 7 of 9. What's the 680 and why is that under a different expense account than the normal pantry?
7 of 9. Hold on.
It's under the profit and loss.
Page 7.
I see it. Hold on.
Oh yeah, that's probably just a reclassification that's needed there. That line doesn't have a budget, so it'll probably be a pantry expense. But it shouldn't be another.
Thanks for pointing that out.
The transaction detail by account, page 5 of 9. I noticed it starts there, but I noticed it throughout that there are a number of invoices for $0. What's going on with that? I'm looking like office supplies,
I'm on the wrong.
crown trophy of Skokie,
Let me see here.
the
Which-
check
which-
stock, I
which-
understand if we're getting that for free, but is there a trophy that doesn't cost anything?
Oh, these are related to journal entries that were probably copied from the month before, where we may have had some ACH or debits hit the account. Typically, journal entries will relate to payroll or any sort of reclassification that we need, such as moving money to the assessor's department, let's say for expenses.
All right, because I did see one of those on the next page, the assessor insurance reclass on page 6 of 9. But because
Correct.
there were a few things that were different, I was curious about what that was.
Yeah, so those $0 amounts have just been duplicated from the prior month, and we can just remove those.
Yeah. Page 8 of 9, I noticed that there are a number of places where there are amounts that are coming into an account and then going out of the account in the exact same amount. So I'm assuming that that's just that reclassification concept as well.
Correct. So you'll see it come into GA versus town in the class distinction. So that's just moving the expense into that other account.
Okay.
So basically, it'll come in through the payroll, and then we'll move, let's say, GA salaries into the GA budgeted line item.
Reconciliation detail, page 2. Was somebody holding down the copy and paste feature by any chance?
Yeah.
There
that
are
looks like
12 or 15 entries of exactly the same amount. They're different dates, but because there's no description on it, it's hard to tell what it was.
We look like,
Which-
right, it says for
Sorry,
amount
which-
zero, and the balance doesn't change.
Is it this transaction that's on the screen? Yeah, so this is, again, this is just a copying of a journal entry that had a transaction in the month of May, and then nothing after that. So again, it just comes over from basically a copying of a journal entry. And that's something that we'll go back and we can clean up, no problem. Just remove the zeros.
They don't have an effect on our finance, they're just zeros, right?
Correct. Yeah, they have no effect. Yeah.
And the same on page 3, reconciliation detail of the BMO checking.
Yeah. You all see that the second tranche of agency checks did go out. Like we had discussed, they wanted.
That's the same scenario. Yep.
Thank you. I believe I've mentioned before that the trustee's title used to be auditor, so I appreciate the findings. Any other changes or comments on the financials for James?
James, just a general question, given the lateness of the revenue, my assumption is that you're seeing some real difficulty in your municipal clients that don't have the reserves that we do. Because if you have second agency checks going out and the kind of, anything close to the kind of volume we had, without the kind of reserves we have, you're probably seeing some deficit spending.
It's very true. The Cook County was able to come out with a bridge loan program, which was a zero interest program. You did have to qualify and show financial distress. So that helped some of our clients. But you're right. I mean, people are down to their last bit of reserves, a lot of places. And so it is a struggle when the taxes are this late. Definitely.
Okay, we are now going to adjourn to the public hearing regarding the proposed tax levy 2022. I need a motion to adjourn from our board of trustees meeting.
Do you keep James around?
Yes, I'm gonna keep James around for the tax. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion, and it's been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, now call the public hearing to order on the tax levy. You have in your packets as well. Okay, so we discussed at our last meeting how we wanted to publish the proposed levy. And then James put together the proposed ordinance based on those discussions. And James, correct me if I'm wrong, this is at the 3% on the town fund, zero increase on GA, is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
All right, discussion is now open.
I noticed a discrepancy on the 3% increase in the levy. We have the same, we're levying the same amount, the 3.368 million, as we are on the other proposal. I think there's a mistake on the front page of the second proposal. It shouldn't be the 3.368 in the third paragraph, section 1. It should be the lower amount, which is reflected on the
It's just a duplicate, I think.
I thought it was just a duplicate. Are we? That
well,
is
there's
good.
two, we're choosing, as I understand it, we're choosing between two different ordinances.
These are two different.
Okay.
ones. He's sent me two different.
All right, so, James, if you wouldn't mind, letting us know the differences between the two proposals.
Yeah, so that's correct. There's two proposals. We had one
Yeah.
at 3% for the town and then one which flat GA and then one at 1.5% for both. So 1.5% for town, 1.5% for GA. I will look at what you had just mentioned in terms of the total levy. You said that was in the language at the top?
In section 1,
Oh, I see. Yes, I see it.
Yeah.
Yes, that amount should be a slightly lower. That's correct. I can make that change and email it to you really quick. I see what you're saying. Yep, that was copied over because we did two.
The other thing I noticed was that it looks like we're on one of them, we're adding a little bit to the let's see,
the GA.
not to GA. Oh, yeah, to the we're subtracting 6,000 from the GA on the greater ordinance. On the ordinance, we're talking about 43,000 more by way of levy. We're actually taking 6,000 from general assistance. Am I reading that correctly? We're adding 43,000 to admit to town general fund. But we're taking 6,000 from on page 2. So something didn't add up to it.
Is it
Yeah,
1%
remember,
increase on
the
both?
one that's the 3,368,878, that's where we're gonna actually increase town and leave GA flat. The other one, the one that's 3,332,483, that's gonna have a 1.5% increase to both town and GA.
Got it,
Yeah,
So
so
they're both
those numbers are
increasing.
reflected appropriately.
got it.
So we don't have the second proposal in front of us.
So this
No,
is
we
the-
have two different proposals.
So the one that's, that has, if you're looking at page 2, and it says 2,897,617, that one for the town fund, that's the 1.5 increase for both funds.
It's, the numbers are off. Because in the increase, we're actually reducing. If you look at page 2, the home relief is what I'm worried about. It looks like in the increased proposal, the 3% levy increase, we're reducing home relief by $6,000 in comparison to the lesser levy proposal, where we're actually, we haven't touched home relief. Or,
No, we're,
Oh, the numbers.
home relief is should be going up in. So in this one, they're both going up and one home relief should be stagnant to the current extension.
Yeah, with the one that we leave GA flat, the 249,000, that's where you're gonna see less in home relief than with the one where we're increasing 1.5%. We're able to increase home relief there in an additional amount.
yeah, that's 43,000 more on top, but 6,000 less on home relief. You turn page.
Yeah, but this is what it is now. They're increasing on this option. It's a 1.5% increase on both.
Okay, but
It's not a decrease.
for increasing here, why is this number less than?
We're,
this
yeah, in the first option, we're not increasing GA, that's why it's less.
Increasing because it's flat. Right.
We have traditionally kept GA flat. To
The one
avoid
that-
having too much in reserves.
I might have stapled it.
So this one is the 3% increase for town,
Correct.
and the 0% increase for GA.
This one is no increase for town, but a small increase for.
No, this one is
No.
1.5% increase for both.
So I did
Correct.
speak with my Northfield and Niles cohort. And they were shocked we were doing such a low increase, to be honest.
Especially in a year that we're going into.
So we were considering doing just 3%. So I personally I'm not interested in the 1.5. I think it's 3 at the least. They're going, I know Niles, Northfield is definitely going up to the max without having to do the what's it, referendum. I don't think Niles was going that high. But both were increasing significantly.
But how do their reserves compare to ours?
That is a good question. I don't have that in front of me.
The one thing I will want to point out to everybody is, remember, we get a loss and cost addition to whatever our levy is of 3%. So even though we're only levying 1.5, you're actually getting 4.5, because the county is going to add 3% automatically to whatever we levy every year, unless we decide we choose not to have them increase us by that loss and cost factor. So that is something just to take into consideration. If anybody does ask us that we're low, we know that we're going to get an additional 3% on top of 1.5, or on top of the 3 if we go with the town 3 GA flat scenario.
Are the townships that take the full amount or the high end also getting the 3% on top of that?
That's correct.
would
So
imagine.
that's something that a lot of townships don't disclose, is that even if they go to the maximum, which is, let's say, the 5% under the cap, they're going to get 3% added to that. So they're actually going to get an 8% levy. Now it's going to get capped back, but they would get the 3% add-on as long as they haven't, like, by resolution decided they did not want to take it.
So Gail, I'm confused. We were given 2 options.
Right.
And we have to pick
Yeah,
one.
at the last meeting, the board had asked James to present the 2 options. We published the 3% as our alternative. I'm confident that I can make the budget work with the 3%. I would not be confident with the 1.5. And that would be probably, as we'll discuss when we talk about the angel fund, probably dipping into the angel fund to make up the difference in the pantry if needed.
At the risk of, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
At the risk of jumping into the committee liaison section, I know that we have 2 organizations that have requested funds for next year as well. And, speaking only for the mental health, kind of group, I know that there are a few agencies that have requested increases above what, they were at last year. And, just from kind of talking amongst ourselves, it sounds like that's only going to be going up, in the future. Based on, what, kind of rumblings are amongst the organizations. So, I hesitate to go with the 1.5% on both, just because I want to be careful and make sure that we are able to, properly fund all the organizations that rely on our support. And I know that it's a tight moment for a lot of people, but in those tight moments, I feel like they're going to be coming to us for help.
Oh, completely.
And so I just want us to be ready and to be as prepared as possible, and to be funding the organizations that rely on our support to do that.
It came up.
Yeah,
in my
and just
area.
remember too, you're a very small piece of the overall tax bill. So
Oh,
even
yeah.
these percentages are, as long as the residents understand, they're not seeing that increase to everything that's on their tax bill. It's just a very small portion of the tax bill for the township.
I made that same argument at my committee the other night, got shot down for it. So I think that you got to be aware of the fact that there are people out there that are looking at our bottom line. And to your point, we've always shown a deficit spending in our budget. We haven't had a deficit spending that I am aware of during my career here. So you can talk the talk, but it's a balancing, because we never end up in a deficit spending. We haven't so far.
And our numbers are even strong right now, and we haven't gotten any of our property taxes yet. And there are taxpayers out there that are looking, and some of them are on my committee that say, well, how much was the levy this year? Did you guys take an increase? And why did you take an increase if your numbers are so high? So you got that counterbalancing argument, and it's real. And my committee dropped some of our agency's numbers, so we countered the other way. And I think one of the other committees, if I'm not mistaken, even dropped even further. So, you know, we're gonna get into the financial things later in that respect, but all this has to be taken into account. So I would be in favor of a lower levy than higher in that perspective.
And along those lines, I can speak for my committee that there may be agencies that no longer qualify for funding since we've revised our policies. And we may end up decreasing funding to some agencies. That's still yet to be determined. But I can see both sides of the coin. I think this is a tough one, tough decision.
What I take comfort in is that the two proposals we're choosing between are both less than what's being done by other townships. So even at 3%, I feel that we're being good stewards of and very conscientious of taxpayer spending, especially when we can talk easily about other municipal entities similarly situated that pushed it up into that 5-6% range. So, I mean, I hear what both sides are saying, but we didn't have even as an option to consider the most robust increase.
But Elliot, we're a unique township, and we have revenues unlike, I think, any township in the state of Illinois. So, yes, you have a solid argument on, but we can't compare ourselves to anybody else, basically, we don't live in the same framework. So that's my concern.
But by the same token, when you look at the pantry, for example, we're already at 90%. We're gonna be well over 100,000 with the pantry. There's a real increased need. I mean, that's proof positive that the need is there. So we want to be able to robustly fund the pantry. And we want to be able to consider maybe upping some of our scholarships and our grants and so on. So I think 3% is kind of middle of the road. I mean, if we would have had a 1.5, a 3, and a 5, you know, then it would, I think between 3 and 1.5, I'd be comfortable with either. But I would defer to Supervisor Eisenberg when she explains that she thinks she's gonna need that 3% to meet some of our tougher line items.
But 3% becomes 6%. And 1.5% becomes 4.5%. So those are real dollars, and
True and true.
that 3% in our pocket is a guarantee that we're not gonna end up in any deficit situation. So just be cognizant of it. We'll vote the way we vote, but that.
But even if 3 becomes 6, we're still in an environment where inflation's running at 7 and 8. Some of the food items that Brian's buying, like the meats and some of the comestibles, are running at inflation rates of 10-15%. So
Elliot, but, all right, so last year we didn't go up particularly, and then inflation hit. So we did not move our levy was lower last year than it is this year. So maybe we're doing some catching up, and now all of a sudden, the inflationary factor is going down again. So it's a catch-22. I grant you that, but we did go up last year, when we probably should have gone up because the heaviest inflation hit in the past year, and now we're on the back downside of that. So
James, could you give us a little bit more color on where 3% would fit in the scheme of the municipalities that you're representing? Would we be at the low end? If we
You
went with
would, I mean, yeah, you would. I mean, I think that most of the townships are gonna go to, you know, the 5 and get the 3 on top of that. You know, that's kind of what we see, you know, across a lot of the townships, especially any of them that need additional financial support or are going out for bigger capital projects. You know, they are getting hit with inflationary costs. Obviously, wages, recruiting and retaining is a different ballgame now, and you know, everybody sees that across all industries. It's harder to recruit and retain, and so some of that additional money also goes there. It's just going to help kind of continue in terms of the expectation to get the best into the township and you know, continue that service level that you guys have provided.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm on the fence between the two. The numbers are really not that significant. I hate to create more work, but what if we found a middle ground between 1.5 and 3 and 2.5? I mean, would that be more? Would we have consensus on 2.5 maybe?
Well, timing wise.
We do need to
Fine.
pass a levy, so it would be that we would be editing it right now. Is that right, James?
Yeah, I mean, I could go and work up numbers now, but you would want to pass it tonight. I mean, you have till the last Tuesday of the month to file it with the county. So it's just, and if you've got it on the agenda, you want to pass it and get it filed, in my opinion.
And I'm not so sure that consensus is absolutely required when we're dealing with numbers that are so close, but if we could come up with unanimity on, but.
Well, I mean, trustee Moser, how do you feel about 2.5?
I still think it's right. I know where I'm gonna vote, so I've already made my mind up.
Okay, what are your thoughts?
Great.
Danielle?
I am debating between 2.5 and 3.
Okay, so I'm hearing 2 for somewhere between 2.5 and 3, 1 for 3 and 1 below 2.5.
If it would get us to a vote, then I would do 2.5.
Would you what?
If it would get us to move forward with 2.5, then I would change my 3 to a 2.5.
Is there a motion on the floor?
I move that we increase the levy by 2.5%, which is kind of the midpoint.
For town and 0% for sky.
Right.
Is there
A
a
second.
There's a second. This requires a roll call vote, and then we would have James
Do we need
read
to do it?
the ordinance for signature. Mr. Clerk.
I'm sorry, do we need to ask if there's any additional discussion?
Oh, is there any additional discussion on the 2.5? Seeing none, I'll call the previous question.
Supervisor Eisenberg,
Yes.
trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Moser,
No.
trustee Robbins,
Yes,
trustee Cassell McNally.
Yes.
The motion carries.
And then we'll know that we just sent it.
Okay, so we will go ahead and revise for 2.5 increase to the town fund, no increase on the general assistance fund. And James, if you're able to do that now, that would be
Yep.
awesome, and we.
I'll work on that right now.
Fabulous.
and
Uh,
just for my own notification, that's 50% of the maximum we could have appealed for or requested. 5% would have been the max, right?
You could have gone 10% because you could have asked for 10, for 5 from each.
So
If you wanted
true.
without a referendum.
Right.
Without a referendum.
You can go higher than 5%, but then you fall into truth and taxation territory. So you would have to publish and have a hearing if you're going to levy over 5%. You can levy whatever you want, but you're not going to get it. You're going to fall back to the tax cap, which is the lesser of 5% of the CPI, unless you pass a referendum.
There you go. Okay, so we will go ahead and do that. And when you're doing that, if you wouldn't mind on page 3, just changing our clerk's name would be,
Sure, yeah.
thank you. Jerome.
Can I have the spelling of our new clerk?
Jerome, Jerome. Last name Hoynes, Hoynes.
All right, very good. I'm gonna get to work on that. I'll be sending something off shortly.
Just off with the-
I think is on page 5. The truth and taxation certification. Should it say president board of trustees or supervisor board of trustees? In the signature line and on the line before,
Minor, but.
yeah.
Ask me.
We'll go with supervisor if we can. Because that is the official title. Perfect, thank you.
Then 5.
Yes, and they'll make the corresponding changes. Yeah, perfect. All right. I'll now entertain a motion to reconvene to the Board of Trustees meeting. Is there such a motion?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are back. I'm gonna steal. Or if you can give me power back, that'd be great. All right. We are joined by a representative from our auditors. I'll give them power. Kevin, do you have any slides that you would want to show or no?
No, no slides, just gonna be just some points to go over as far as how the audit was this year.
All right, the floor is yours.
Okay, all right, thanks everyone. I'm Kevin Smith from Meter Selling Company. We do your guys' annual audit. I've been the partner on the job for the last 2 years now. So just, real quickly, when we come out to these meetings, we like to just hit on some key points, how things went, any potential management letter comments. So this year, overall field work itself went well considering the situation. So with Diana abruptly leaving, there was obviously some issues, some difficulties finding some certain things and getting some things wrapped up. But Larisha and Gail were both great to work with, and did as well as they could have with what they were given. So thanks to both of them for everything. And going forward, I think you guys are in good hands from that situation, and there shouldn't be any delays for things like that. As far as a management letter this year, there was a management letter this year. Not a material weakness or significant deficiency, but just another matter. One thing that we noticed that was an issue with Dan abruptly leaving was there was a group of bank recs that weren't done. So just implementing procedures to review those on a more regular basis. Being in this meeting now, I can see that you guys have those in your board packets and went over those things. So that's already being done. You guys have already taken care of that, and that was our only comment for this year. So as you guys know, that's already been corrected. So next year that won't be an issue. For your guys' report itself, so GASB is your standard setter that sets the standards for how the report looks, certain things, how they're presented. For this year, no significant GASBs that affected your guys' report this year. Next year, the big one that's hitting a lot of governments may affect you guys, but I think from a materiality perspective, probably isn't going to affect you. Is GASB 87. That is the new standard involving leases. What that essentially says is if you have a lease to use an asset, whether or not you're going to keep that thing at the end, you're going to essentially record an asset and a liability on the books for that GASB 87 type lease. That is just on your government-wide financial statements, so not the financial statements you guys are looking at on a regular basis that you guys just went over. This would only be an audit thing for your governmental-wide financial statements. So that's going to be for next year. Like I said, you guys don't have significant leases right now, so unless you enter into something during the current year, it's probably not really going to affect you guys. So overall, then the next few things I'd like to hit on are just some numbers where things ended. So if you guys have the report in front of you, your guys' fund balance, this is what the numbers you guys are used to looking at for the most part. We do adjust for accruals at year end. But on page 13 of the report, your governmental funds show a slight decrease, about $20,000 down from last year. Ending balance in the general fund is at about $426,000, which is down about $60,000 from last year. Not one real specific thing that stands out in a comparison to last year, mainly just an overall increase in expenditures in comparison to the prior year. But overall, that balance is about 2 months of your current year expenditures. Just wanted to point out for you guys, it's a little deceiving for you guys. So when you guys move to the accrual basis for your audit at the end of the year, property taxes that are received early, so property taxes that were received for the 2021 levy are deferred until the next year. You guys budget for those in use in the next year, so those amounts are deferred. So that's about $490,000 that you guys have in revenue, you have in cash, that gets deferred and doesn't actually show up in revenue until next year's report. So when you add that in, you're actually more at about 4 years of expense, or not 4 years, but 4 months of expense. So just wanted to point that out. It in a general fund, that's not a bad spot. I would say it is getting a little closer to the lower end. But just based on the meeting, the discussion you guys just had, I can tell you guys are keeping up on that and watching that very closely. So I don't have any concerns there. The general assistance fund then is up about $40,000. It's been building for the past few years. And that fund is obviously pretty healthy. You guys are sitting at about 32 months of current year expenditures right now. So the next point I'd like to point out is going back then to page 10. I used to I leave the government wide for last, just because that's not what you guys are used to seeing. That contains things that you guys don't necessarily look at on a regular basis, such as your fixed assets, long-term debt, if you have any. You guys being on the accrual basis are required to record pension liabilities related to IMRF. That's where all those liabilities show up. So for that on page 10, you're showing an actual increase then of $175,000. Page 14 of the report gives you a breakdown then. It reconciles where you go from the fund financials to the government-wide financials. For you guys, the main difference is essentially IMRF. So IMRF, that liability each year is measured on a calendar year basis. So it was measured as of 12/31/21. That's obviously before the market took a downturn. So IMRF's investments are doing really well up until that point, and the liabilities were going down. Next year at this time, when we're having this conversation, you're going to see that flip. The investments aren't going to do that well, and you're going to end up showing higher expense in the government-wide level because of that IMRF pension liability. Again, that's just government-wide. Those aren't actual dollars that you guys are sitting out there. That's an actuarial calculation that is done each year and just needs to be presented on your guys' government-wide financial statements for the audit. So those are the things I usually like to hit on. So that's it for me, unless you guys have any specific questions.
Kevin, I think I missed the very first thing that you said, that there was something that wasn't showing up on our agenda and now it is. Can you go back to that? It's literally the first.
The
thing I said.
reconciliation.
Reconciliation.
Yes, the
Got
bank
it.
reconciliations. Yep. And you guys are reviewing those now. We had discussed that early on in the process, and so they had put in procedures to start getting more better procedures to review those on a more regular basis.
Fabulous, thank you.
Kevin, a few years ago, we were slightly concerned about our pension liabilities because we thought that we might have to throw some money in there. And then, of course, the investments probably did very well until the last year, and that potential shortfall corrected itself. Is that a correct statement? That we seem to be in good shape with regard to our pension liabilities.
Yes, as of February of 22, your guys' pension liability actually wasn't even a liability, it was actually an asset. Like I said, there is going to be some flipping to that with the way the market's done. But the way IMRF, I mean, they were pushing for, I mean, it's probably been close to 10 years ago already for people to make some prepayments and pay down some of that liability if you had excess cash. Some places did it. I will say all those places have significant assets right now, the way things are sitting. A lot of times where you guys sit, I think you guys are in a good position. Any shortfall that's going to happen for this year with things flipping, they will adjust your rates. Your rates will change along with that. Also, this thing it's an actuarial calculation based on a lot of assumptions that may or may not happen, and that changes on an annual basis as well. Those discount rates tend to change, especially now with the way things are going. But I will say right now, as your guys' pension liability looks, you guys look like you're in a good spot. Because even with some of the market and the way things did last year, there still were quite a few that were still sitting at liabilities, not at assets.
Kevin, did I understand you correctly that in the town fund, the actual over expenditure was $50,000 more than last year? Is that correct?
So no, what the $50,000 is that's what your fund balance decreased by in comparison to last year. So that's your expenditures in excess of the revenues. But like I said, that's not used to what you guys are looking at. So when we adjust for accrual basis for the property taxes that you guys collected in advance for the 2021 levy, those aren't taken into account in revenues. They're put into a deferred revenue account. So when you look at page 11 of the report that shows your balance sheet, you have a deferred inflow of resources that has an unavailable revenue amount, which is your total 2021 tax levy. That $490,000 isn't taken into account, even though you collected it. So if you're looking at a strictly cash basis, you guys actually brought in about 430,000-ish more in revenue than you actually spent out in cash. It's just the way it looks on the financials that your revenues, that your fund balance went down because those amounts aren't going to be taken into account until next year for financial statement purposes.
So next year it'll look inflated the other way, right?
No, because I mean, potentially based on the way Cook County's behind on payments, it's a potential that it could be the other way. But in most cases on a normal year, this deferral happens every year. You guys usually have early collections and it happens every year. So it's really just a small change in what was deferred last year compared to this year. So it wouldn't necessarily just flip. If Cook County's behind, then yeah, you may have some differences in that when you're looking at it from a cash basis perspective.
Thank you.
And remind me, either Kevin or James. Is it 2.5 times your annual revenue that you're allowed to keep in reserves? What's the limit?
I believe it's 200% of your last 3 years, your average last 3 years.
For the
is
last
the
3 years?
is where you could draw an objection. Yeah, if you're over 200% of the average, you're holding fund balance of over 200% of the average of the last 3 years.
We've talked about abating some of the general assistance funds. We've also obviously talked to the legislators about allowing us to sweep again, but that hasn't happened. So right now we're kind of stuck. Now, as you saw, we do 0. So
Yes, and that fund is that is getting high. That it definitely is. That is on the higher end where you do have the possibility of starting to get tax objections.
right. Okay, all right. Any other questions?
Thank you, Kevin and James.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I'm hoping that we'll make the audit report visit a annual endeavor to see you and hear from you each year. So thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
All right. We now received our revised tax levy ordinance, which we've already passed. We don't have to go back into our public meeting. Our ayes were, if you recall, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 nay, 0 absent. I'm signing.
Page 4, who's our secretary?
We have maybe. Okay. You've got to sign that one. The test that you saw me sign it. Yep. Welcome back.
On page 4, who's our secretary?
So I think this is just a weird quirk of the statute. Is that correct? James, that the clerk is the secretary, the president is the supervisor?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's a statute. It's the weirdness. This is still you. That's in here. Okay. Okay. We'll scan that in and get it filed. Are you gonna go downtown again, or?
Yeah.
I know you love it. Okay. Otherwise, Nicole will show you the portal.
Oh, Supervisor, just as an FYI, once it's all signed, you can email it to me and I can file it through the Cook County portal also. And then I'll send you and the clerk a confirmation. It's totally up to you though.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we'll go ahead and scan that in. You want me to do that then?
Great.
Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll scan that back then. Great. All right. Motion, yeah.
Just stamp it.
They'll send it, I think they'll electronic stamp it. I know, no, not as fun. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. All right, we're now led for a motion to adjourn to the corporate meetings. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay, we will start with the Angel Fund Corporation. We have approval of the December 14th, 2021 minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes?
I just noticed that not by way of discussion that we're lower at this point this time than we were last year in terms of expenditure.
Oh, sorry, just on the minutes first. Yeah. And seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from December 14th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, unanimous. Election of the officers and directors. I will go ahead and nominate myself as president, as the supervisor. Anyone feeling excited to be a secretary this year? Last year was fun, so Kate. Speaking. The other directors. And so this slate. Do I have a motion to approve the slate of officers for 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Seeing none, it is unanimous. I did ask Jean to provide us with the disbursements for this year. She usually puts it in her board report, but not like, we haven't really had these corporate meetings seen the numbers. And until this year, we actually, neither I nor Jean had ever seen the account balance until we started having James do our funds. So appreciate that. I think what made it clear though is that we do have a healthy donation set there. And we are trying to find ways to use them to best serve our community. So one change we also made to the general emergency assistance, so you can get one essentially bite at emergency assistance each year. Where there are unmet needs still for that emergency. We have now changed our township policy to allow us to use angel funds in addition to meet up that deficit. We used to only be able to get to angel funds, either angel fund or emergency. So now we can use both. So we are continuing to find ways to use that. Like as I said, now that we're at 95% on the pantry, I do anticipate having to use some of the donations for pantry expenses, which is what they're for. So.
And I would say by all means, I mean, look at this 9-month period, we're at 24,000 in disbursements. For the 12 months prior to this year, we used close to 49,000. So we're kind of behind last year's rate of spending, but I'd be curious to see, doesn't have to be tonight, but at some point, the account balance over a period of years, so we have a sense of what's coming in.
True, and we did increase the income limits for emergency assistance. That could have an impact. You were probably went to 250% of the federal poverty rate. So that meant that people who might have been getting angel fund in the past were now eligible for emergency, which is again our attempts to spend down GA in legal ways. So
Do we have regular donations coming in on an annual basis today?
but
All the time.
It would be wonderful to be able to see what's coming in, and we see what's going out, but it'd be, give us a sense.
I can tell you that in my next board report, or I can get it to you before then.
Is this the highest, for example, that the account balance has ever been, or?
we don't know.
Well, we didn't know that.
And this is information that was,
It's much higher than
yeah,
traditionally was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
But
we
so
got
there's some missing
$100,000
information.
over the pandemic. At least.
The community certainly came, wanted to help, and so now we have the funds here to do so. And I think that the community would appreciate that we're using it towards this increased use of the pantry.
Do you know what the date of that balance is from?
That's like
That's 2 days
last
ago,
week,
yeah.
right before I sent it here.
But the bank statement would give us a sense of where we've been over the last 36 or 48 months.
Oh, true.
Mhm.
What did I say? Oh, and I did forget to say in my supervisor's report, the League of Women Voters State of the Villages event raised money for the food pantry. And I have to which was very nice of them. Any other questions on Angel Fund? All right, so that is our nonprofits. It looks like I need our secretary here. Right. Yeah. All right, Courier Corporation. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of December
Or do we need
14th?
to like officially adjourn or something?
No, we're still in the corporate meeting. I'll call the meeting of the, there you go. I'll call the meeting of the Courier Corporation to order. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the December 14th, 2021 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any edits? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. I'd like to nominate Elliot to take over as secretary. Danielle, thank you for your service. With the remaining trustees as directors. All those in favor of the slate and myself as president of the Courier Corporation. Is there a motion to approve the slate of officers?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
This one's so good.
And we don't have a fund balance for the Courier, because we just move money from our township operating fund into the Courier specifically when we need postage.
Okay.
That is literally what that entire preparation is for. All right. Motion to adjourn the corporate meetings.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are now back in our board meeting. Welcome back. All right, thanks for hanging in with us, Assessor Churchwell. The floor is yours. Assessor's report.
Okay, hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
I have the one piece of news everybody's been waiting for. Appeal results went into the mail tonight from the assessor. It's going to be a wonderful Christmas for everybody, I'm sure. The official publication, the notice publication will be next Thursday, December 22nd. At that point, the assessor is done with us and appeals for the year. He's canceled the longstanding re-review period. So whatever anybody gets in their notice coming out now, or whatever they see in the paper next Thursday, that's what the assessor did to them. And then next, we just wait and see when the Board of Review opens us. And since notices just went out tonight, and the publication has to be a week or so after that, I'm going to see if the Board of Review is hopefully not going to open us until after the first of the year, only because being being open the week between Christmas and New Year's is probably a big waste of space for everybody, and will just make it harder to get everybody's service properly and on time. So that's really about it.
Have you gotten a chance to get in touch with Samantha Steele, our new Board of Review Commissioner?
Oh, yes, yes, I did. I'm sorry. I guess I should mention that. Yes, Len and I had lunch with Samantha at the beginning of December and had a very nice meeting. Her assessment background is excellent, outstanding. I'm really, really happy to hear about all this. And I hope that the political shoals of Cook County politics will not be something that get in her way. I think with the fact that there are 2 new board commissioners now will help, because they're, it's sort of like there won't be an old guard in place. There's one commissioner who's been there a long time. And if 2 commissioners want to do something else, well, he'll be outvoted. If one of them votes with him on something, then, that's what will happen. But I mean, now at least the dynamic is vastly changed by having 2 new faces there. And all I hope for is that this all works to the benefit of the residents of Cook County, because that's what the board's supposed to be working on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's Stefan, are the tax bills we just got, those are our tax bills for 2021 second.
Yes.
and
Yes,
That's-
correct.
But that's the one that's now being appealed as of next year, so how did it catch up with itself?
Well, I suspect it's going to be rather slow. There is no way that the second tax bills for 2022 are going to go out on time, in my opinion, for the very simple reason that I doubt that the Board of Review can finish everything that they have to do. They're part of the cycle in order for bills to be mailed by June 22nd, by the end of June 2023. The fact that the assessor is tossing results out fairly quickly right now leads me at least to believe that he's not going to spend the better part of a year on it the way he did last year. But depending on, just sort of depending on how much work what he did or did not do by way of reassessments for people, that is what determines the workload of the Board of Review. And the rest of the cycle, getting the equalizer and setting the tax rates, cannot happen until the Board of Review is finished with all its results, all its appeals for a tax cycle. And they will, I know they will, they always have. They've been much more responsive to at least trying to say, we think we're going to be able to be done by X date, or we don't know if we're going to be able to be done by X date or whatever, but they haven't been as close-mouthed about it as the assessor is in general. And so I think we'll be able to keep everybody up better with what they're doing, or with their timing, I should say, not what they're doing, but the timing of how they're getting through the appeals. Last year, the 2021 reassessment cycle was the city of Chicago. And that was rough. I mean, the city of Chicago got hit hard in a lot of areas, which is one of the reasons the Board of Review was held up so far in 2021. If the reassessments here in the Northern Tri, I mean, I think they're probably just as bad, but I don't know. I don't know that we have the same volume of people that are in the city. So that would then affect how many appeals they would get, because just how many, if you only have 10,000 people, you can't get more than 10,000 appeals. So it may be that this year will go faster than last year, but I wouldn't predict that at all. But I'm pretty willing to say that I don't think the tax bills will be on time back to the August 1st deadline that we were used to in the past. But hopefully, God, nothing like this again.
Okay, thank you.
And there is also there is a bill. I was just about to start looking it up when Gail said hello. A bill passed the House and the Senate to extend the first tax bill for 2022 to April 1st of 2023, rather than making it March 1st of 2023. So everybody will get a little bit more of a breather there. before they have to pay that first installment. That's it.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. All right, we're now in line for public comments. Are there any comments? Seeing none. Mary, we always appreciate you coming. Thank you. We have a new committee member application, Stephen Hardy. Is there any discussion?
I would say, he looks very well qualified. He, is already serving, I believe he's attended the last meeting.
Yeah.
And, I would recommend to the, this board that he be approved.
Any additional discussion?
I would just say I agree. He's actually attended, I think, a couple of meetings now, so we're thrilled to have him.
All right. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the application.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, unanimous. We have committee liaison reports from our staff. Does anybody want to take any of the reports out for discussion?
Did you want to do committee liaison first?
Oh, my goodness, thank you. Sorry, out of order. Committee liaison reports. Mental health funding and oversight committee.
So we had, in the interest of brevity, given the time, we had our decision-making meeting last evening. And Rick Drake, our fearless leader, will be presenting at the January meeting.
Did you cut from what was requested?
I'm not saying a thing until the January.
Life stages funding and oversight committee.
So we have our decision meeting tomorrow night at 6:30. If anyone is interested in attending, we will be discussing the youth organizations in addition to all the other organizations.
Thank you. All right, disability support funding.
We had our meeting last Thursday. And basically gave what was requested with a couple of minor cuts. That we made.
Recommend. Yes. Pure jury, Elliot.
we may have a new case coming in January. After the first of the year, we will be sending letters to the junior highs and to the high schools in the township. Inquiring about, presenting our program to them and seeing if we can do anything to improve our caseloads. Stephen very kindly handed me an article that was published in the Tribune that talks once again about monetizing of school offenses, where schools go to the local police department and ordinance is written, and then the students, presumably in the township through more affluent means, will pay a fine instead of perhaps being pushed into pure jury. So we need to find out what our schools are doing and why the caseload is down. And we've talked to the police departments about as much as we can, and now it's time to talk to the schools.
All right.
I have a question in that regard. Is it your intention to solicit the schools to adopt the program and then go to the police department and say, we want this case handled through a jury?
It's our intention to find out what's going on at the school level, why we're not getting referrals from the schools or through the police department from the schools, to find out what we're competing with. That's number one, to explore that. And number two, to remind them, anyone who's willing to listen that has some control of the wonderful process that we have and the low recidivism rates and how pure jury, can be a much more therapeutic and much lower recidivism if they go through pure jury as opposed to just mommy or daddy writing a check to somebody.
But, all right, Ellie, I've been wrestling with this since the last board meeting. Isn't that the call for the police department to make? Isn't it their decision as to whether something comes to a jury, not the defender, not the school? I mean, I'm just trying to understand it, because what I don't want to have happen, and I really have to decide, is I don't want the police department to come back and say, hey, you guys are doing an end run on us. We told you that we would bring you cases when it was appropriate. And now you're going and soliciting behind us, if you will. And that's my concern.
The word soliciting might be a little bit strong. I understand what you're saying. What we need to find out is what the schools are doing. We
They're
have,
handling it. They're dealing with it. The bottom line is,
but are they monetizing it? They never used to monetize it in the past.
if they are, they are.
Okay, but then we need to maybe appeal to the community. We have to consider as a board whether we want to take this appeal. Beyond just talking to people, whether we want to get some public input, because if we've got a wonderful program, which is in mothballs, because, it's been decided that offenses suddenly are all gonna be monetized, and it's all about the dollar. As opposed to real reform, juvenile justice reform, then I think as a community, the community needs to weigh in. I'm not saying it's gonna get to that point, but we just at this point are exploring, trying to figure out why we have this sudden and dramatic decrease in cases.
My understanding
Because
is,
Jimmy isn't gonna get into Harvard if he's got a criminal record.
well, and I think what Ellie's concerned about is that the schools aren't sending the cases to the station for adjustment to us. Right, because they think that it's automatically going to be a problem for them and mess with their college admissions.
And then we have to let them know, we have to dispel that notion and let them know that there is no juvenile record.
Exactly. So,
They know that. They know that. They've used, it's a marvelous, terrific program.
The
I
parents don't
totally
know
get
that.
that.
The parents don't know that. And so the parents will talk to the school administrators and pound their fists on the table to keep it out of the police's hands. So this may be, I think.
But the referral comes from the police department. It has to go-
Exactly, and so if it's coming from the school to the police department to us, that means it's already gotten bad enough that it's gotten to the police department. And I think mom and dad are getting involved at the school level and trying to keep things away from the police. I don't think that this is as much about the police as it is about the school and about educating the community and the schools about what we can do, how we can do it, and that it's not going to ruin somebody's chances for being an eye banker.
Right, and I agree, I don't think the police are intercepting all these cases, I think the schools are making those decisions. And they used to simply call the police and the police would send them to peer juries, so. We've got to find out what the motivations are and what's going on. I'd love to believe that suddenly our community is extremely well behaved and the youth in our community are suddenly really dramatically overnight, just suddenly being model citizens. I don't think that's the case.
You were told that. You were actually told that by the police department.
We've been told a lot of things, Stefan. We've been told, Brian and I have been told to our faces that we're gonna send you cases, Don't worry, we're not monetizing all these cases, and they haven't been sent. So we need to explore what's going on. I mean, I'd love that suddenly after the first of the year, our caseloads pick up and return, 50% of normal. We don't have to beat our heads against the wall. But in the meantime, I think we have to be proactive. Because we built a beautiful program. It's one of the hallmarks of the township.
or juvenile crime is actually down, both are great. I would prefer the latter.
There's a reason, I guess you're answering, but there's a reason you're not getting peer jury cases. That it's been worked out either with the school or the police department or a combination of both. And I have more power to you. I just think you're going,
Well, it's because of the wonderful work we do and because we've studied recidivism rates, that we're worried. We're worried about, the long-term effects of not having people understand what it is that they've done wrong and learn from their mistakes. We believe that over the 20 years that peer jury's been active, that we've probably saved some lives with the program. I mean, we're confident in that. We think very highly of the program and we're dismayed and confused by the sudden and dramatic drop off.
Thank you, trustee. Robbins, now we are in line for the staff report. Is there anything anyone wants to discuss from the staff report?
From Larissa's report, I've got two questions. Asbestos in the basement.
Mhm.
How did
It was
one.
for them to say yes or no.
Okay, so my concern is for staff when they do abatement, if this is gonna necessitate either a remote working, while they're doing the abatement work, or I just wanna make sure that, our staff is, protected and that they like.
Well,
walk
we'll
in-
work with, they sent me a report a little bit earlier today, so it is asbestos. That room in the back, it's the main storage room in the back where we keep where all of the stuff from binary part was, the old computers and stuff like that. Nobody really ever goes back there in their room. I told the cleaning people to remove their stuff out of there and not go back there for the time being. They did send me a list of contractors, so contractors will tell me exactly what to do, when to do it.
Right.
Yeah, but we had someone come in and do the testing, so he sent me a list of stuff and how to go about the process.
What triggered the alarm?
So when we had our open house last Sunday, Steve's mom's boyfriend is a contractor, and he came to me and he said, you know, you have asbestos in the basement. And I said, no, I didn't know we had asbestos in the basement. I'm glad that it's in one particular area.
He said it was confined to one area.
Yeah, it's confined to one area. It's not in the area where our place utilizes like.
It's not in a common pantry.
It's not in the common pantry area. And I was like, no, I didn't know that. So I called somebody out last week and he came in, a certified technician.
So yeah, open house.
And do we have that area kind of sealed off?
Yeah, nobody really goes back in that area except for the cleaning people, and I've already told our cleaning people to not go back there and what the situation is.
Never a dull moment.
No,
The other thing that I wanted to ask about is, the Northern Trust. Relationship person. I feel like Northern Trust has been less than ideally
Absolutely.
responsive.
And now we've been told essentially that we're part of a banker pool and we do not have a relationship banker. So this has been a
How much money do
major.
we have over there? How much? do we have?
$309,000.
Mhm.
We have over 300,000 and they can't assign a relationship.
Right.
banker.
And there's
With the
nobody in
balance
the
sheet.
I walked into the bank a little bit over a week ago. And I said, you know, I bring the deposits here every week. I'm the administrator. Are you a signer on the account? Well, no, but I'm the administrator. And I said, I just want to get information. Can somebody tell me who our banker is? And they said, oh, well, you guys are assigned downtown Chicago. I said, well, that doesn't work because we're in Winnetka.
Yeah.
So if we.
And
were-
you're a block away.
You're a block away. If we were to have an issue, it's very lackluster, you know, I don't like the idea of being in a pool of, you know.
Well, who do you call? Like you.
Right.
And that's the biggest, and that is an issue. I called, they gave me an 800 number essentially, and they said, oh, all of our bankers are busy.
Yeah, so.
It's criminal. I mean, we have 300,000 in that Northern Trust with 5 basis points. Right above that line item we have in the
I
BMO
know.
Warrior account, we have $458 and they're giving 61 basis points. I mean, you tell Northern Trust, we're pulling our money. We're pulling our money.
So I'm hoping to to get a hold of someone tomorrow, but yeah, it's been very frustrating to say the least.
They're probably trying to cater to more higher net worth individuals, and 300,000 doesn't excite them.
Oh, and so we didn't put down the holiday party on here.
Oh, the holiday party, did everybody get my email regarding the holiday party? Next Friday
Friday, yeah.
from 12 to 2. At
Your grab bag?
Little Honeycomb.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll
We'll do
figure out if we're
Fun.
good.
Yeah, last time we did an entertaining game, some entertaining games.
Yeah, when we play.
Big one. Big one.
Don't
Here,
mind
I'm
doing
I'll send her an email and we'll figure out some fun stuff.
Yeah.
for
$5, $10?
Yeah.
$20?
Keep an eye on your website.
Well, 12 p.m. on Friday the 23rd.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would love to be there, but I'll be in Morocco.
Ah, that's a very good excuse.
Morocco.
There's a wedding.
That is on my list.
Carlos is-
Oh, wonderful. But yes, so we'll celebrate our staff. Anything else anyone wants to discuss off of these? I'm so excited to see that we have made that change on the task force to more afternoon. And that it's working out, and certainly people are very interested in it.
I did get a chance to talk to Brian, yesterday about, what the pantry is lacking right now. And he mentioned, in addition, that, I'm looking at his, report, he said the cookies, clean and surprise and cooking oil, canned salmon and chicken
Yes, canned protein,
foil, yeah, but he said that we're cool on tuna.
got it.
Foil like baggies and salad dressings.
Yeah.
In addition, so to the degree that anybody has friends who are saying, want to do something around the holidays, this might be a fun thing to do.
And we'll put out our revised priority list as well. All right, I am going to table the investment proposal for the next one. Thank you. New business scheduled 2023 regular board meetings. For statute, we have to do this once a year. And so this is for I believe all of these are just the second
Second to
Tuesdays of the month. I don't think I think I looked and didn't see any holidays that interacted. The annual meeting is during Passover, but not during one of the, not during Yontiv, on which work is prohibited. So I don't think you need to change it. We'll just also have macaroons. You can enjoy the not fancy macaroons.
All of the board meetings fall on all 4 of my kids' birthdays this year.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. Hopefully you will be not.
Well, a few of them don't care because one of them will be 18 and the other will be 24.
No.
So
Any issues with any of these days? Okay, wonderful. So save those, and as indicated, the January meeting, the committee chairs make their presentations, and we'll vote on allocations at the February 14th meeting. My intention is to pass our budget at the March 14th meeting.
Is February 14th Valentine's Day?
Yep. It is.
Yeah.
Well, for us romantics, it might be confliction.
It's like St. Patrick's Day.
I could definitely get,
I'm with you.
I could get some done with that. I seriously could. Stefan, could you?
No, I'm good.
Oh, God, no.
When it's in the middle.
Bring your wife.
That is her favorite holiday. You know.
Local government is for lovers.
So
There you go. It's been proven. Oh, we have to tell that to the perspective. We're gonna do something like that. All right, wonderful. And we'll start talking about our annual town meeting. Last year we were at in Wilmette, so try to move ourselves around the township. And not to step on your toes, but it has been proposed that we consider honoring Connie's Pharmacy, who recently retired, for their partnership on our medical systems over the year. So, and of course, Brian will have retired from his current role at that point, and will have taken on a part-time pantry role at that point. All right. Oh, yeah, we'll discuss. Verification of claims. Trustee Moser.
All I have is a blank piece of paper for the town fund. November 2022. And that's all it says to be presented tonight, but.
That was the financial report.
Well, what is it?
they'll change the wording at the
Yes.
top.
Yep. Let me know if you don't like the wording. I mean,
We dovetail this with James, like, kind of pass this rating while he's still.
oh, I do like that. That's a great idea. So in the future, we can change the agenda and move it to the top. There's no reason it has to be last. Just always has. it.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
I move for approval of the town fund for the month of November 2022. Properly motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Although, we need a roll call vote. Mr. Clerk?
All right. Supervisor Eisenberg,
Yes.
trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Moser, trustee Robin.
Yes.
Trustee Cassell now.
Yes.
All right. We'll pass that around. We're now in line for a motion to adjourn. Is there such a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.